Welcome, everybody, to the Treat Dogs Like Dogs podcast. This is episode number 6, and today I am just going to play a large segment from a TikTok live debate. The reason why I feel this is important is because it shows what the dog training world really looks like when it comes to people having ideologies without actually being a professional in the industry or without actually understanding what they're talking about. It happens often, and whenever I do my lives, it's so that way I can openly talk in real time educational topics and discuss and talk about different training methodologies. And then I have people like this gentleman come up and yeah, stay tuned. It's a good one. It gets very passionate and yeah, I think you'll enjoy this.
I'm so sorry. Hello. Thank you for letting me join the live.
Yeah. How's it going, Andrew?
Um, Going well. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing well. So, question,
Hmm.
because I heard something in the previous conversation about reinforcing the behavior.
Yep.
Can you dive more into that?
So reinforcing like accidental
Hmm.
conditioning,
Hmm.
reinforcing the behavior of lunging.
Well, just reinforcing behavior in general.
Yeah.
Like the whole idea of reinforcing a behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Give me just one second. I'm bringing my dogs inside real quick. Good boy. Okay, so as far as reinforcement goes, it's
Hmm.
using the quadrants of operant conditioning. Reinforcement has both
Hmm.
positive and negative
Hmm.
reinforcements. All
Hmm. Of
reinforcement
course.
means is to increase the likelihood of
Hmm.
a behavior happening, while punishment means decreasing the likelihood of a behavior happening.
Right.
So,
So a reinforcer is anything that occurring in conjunction with an act tends to
yes,
increase the probability that an act will occur again.
correct,
Right?
correct. So if
Okay.
it's
So
positive, you're
so on
adding
that
something
point,
to the
no, no, I'm
equation.
going to stop you right there. I'm going to stop you. So why is Karen Pryor a joke?
Okay, so Karen Pryor's a joke,
Because
because
the words that I just spoke are the very first words from her book, Don't Shoot the Dog.
yeah. So did you know that Karen Pryor also made statements like, I can recall my dog off of anything, and then she lost her dog in the woods, or the fact that she uses e-collars to keep her dogs within her boundaries of her
Okay.
home? Did you
But
know
the
that?
idea of
Because why? Wait,
of
wait, wait, wait,
but
wait.
the
No, it's
idea
my
of
turn. Andrew.
well, the idea of positive reinforcement comes from that book.
No, the idea of positive reinforcement comes back to what, 1700s? They were using positive reinforcement.
And they were
No.
calling it positive reinforcement then.
No, we become more scientific with the
No,
terminology.
Karen Pryor quote like I'm sorry, but
Karen Pryor
Karen
did not
Pryor is not
coin
a
the terms
joke.
positive reinforcement.
It's in her book. First chapter of the
So
book.
it's in her
Don't
book.
shoot
So
the
it's in her
dog.
book. It's in a lot of people's books. It doesn't mean she coined positive reinforcement term.
She
I'm
kind of
saying Karen
did.
Pryor's a joke because she spits a lot of positive reinforcement only type training, and then she goes and does the opposite. That's why she's a joke.
Okay, but you use the methods in her book.
Oh, and I also use punishment, and she doesn't preach punishment because I
Well, I
believe that
certainly do.
I
Is it
can. You want me to
punishment
put
or is it negative reinforcement though?
punishment? I'm using punishment as well as positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment. I use all four quadrants of operant conditioning as
Mm-hmm.
well as classical conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
Mm-hmm.
only setting yourself, you're going to set a dog up for failure if you never teach a dog what's unacceptable behavior. So you
Mm-hmm.
cannot truly teach a dog right from
Mm-hmm.
wrong
Mm-hmm.
with using positive
Mm-hmm.
only reinforcement.
Well, let's take for example, right? Let's. I mean, I come from a very different quadrant of the world.
Okay.
Um, we're not training dogs in my line of work. We're
Okay.
training wild animals in our care, right?
Okay.
So we don't punish them for behaviors that we deem as quote wrong,
Okay.
right?
So when you're training wild
Mm-hmm.
animals, can you elaborate a little bit more on what you guys are training for, what you're doing with them?
Presenting different body parts for husbandry practice, um, different recall behaviors to make sure that they come inside their indoor space when we need them to come inside their indoor space.
Okay. So would you
Mhm.
claim these wild animals are companion animals?
Oh no, they're wild animals.
Exactly. So there's the big difference.
Okay.
So you can't compare dog training to wild animal training. That's
Well, we
disingenuous to try to
can
do that.
because I mean dogs are still animals,
They're
are they not?
domesticated animals. They're not wild.
Okay,
Dogs are not
so
wolves.
as far as domesticated animals, right? We domesticated animals to make them serve humanity. No,
Yes and no. Yes and no. So
because
we
I mean
can.
cows are domesticated so we can take their milk, so we can bring them to slaughter and eat them.
Yeah, and cats domesticated
Mhm.
themselves. So there's another spectrum of domestication. We didn't domesticate cats; they domesticated
Were
themselves.
they domesticated or were they positively reinforced by humanity's tendency to store grain and have their food source near us?
They were domesticated. They became
Well,
domesticated
no,
more or
you
less. We're
said they
talking about cats. They
domesticated
became
themselves.
domesticated,
We
but
didn't domesticate them. They were positively reinforced to be near human beings because they knew that we had sources of grain that had their food source, mice.
okay. And what's your point in all of this?
My point is, Karen Pryor isn't a joke.
Oh, she is. She is. Anybody that sits here and preaches one thing and practices the opposite, acting like they're all holy in the dog
Mhm.
training world, is a joke to me.
Well, you can't question her methods because you use them.
I can question her ethos. I can question
Oh,
her
you can question the
bullshit.
person, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the same thing.
Did
It's the
did I
same
say
idea
did I
as
say
enjoying.
did I want you to read that for me? Does
Mhm.
it say Karen Pryor is a joke or does it say positive reinforcement is a joke?
Karen Pryor is a joke.
Okay, then what do you think I'm talking about? Positive reinforcement or the person Karen Pryor?
I mean, when I read that, I instantly thought of the book that I just finished reading,
Okay.
and I got defensive. So in future lives, I would reiterate that or add a parentheses.
I'm not going to change my lives for the
Her
sake of you,
methods,
buddy.
her
That's not how it
methods,
is. You
her
need to learn
meth,
to read.
but
It
her
says Karen
methods.
Pryor is a joke. I had nothing. It
Well,
has
no, but
nothing to
it's
do
her
about a book you
methods.
specifically read, and I don't care what book you read.
Okay, but if someone came across this live and they saw this book, Don't Shoot the Dog, and saw it was written by Karen Pryor,
Hmm.
and they saw your life first, they'd go, "Oh, I shouldn't read this. Karen Pryor's a joke." But there's great stuff in here.
And there's plenty of other stuff that other people have that is very similar to hers.
But this
It
is the original, right? It's denying the source material. It's like saying that J.K. Rowling, right? Harry Potter is a joke. J.K. Rowling is a terrible person, terrible human being, but the
hmm
world, the art she created is amazing, right?
Okay, so
Don't
I can
shoot the
I can
messenger.
say that I don't buy or use or even endorse anything from J.K. Rowling because that person is a horrible person. Why do I want to give them money? Just like Karen Pryor, why would I want to help
So why
support
would
her
you
when
endorse
she
operant
doesn't even
conditioning and
use
positive
the
reinforcement
methods completely that
training
she
if
claims she
Karen Pryor
uses?
wrote the book on it? Why would you endorse operant conditioning and positive reinforcement training if Karen Pryor literally wrote the book on it?
Because there's millions of other sources you can go through that
What's
have the
another book
exact
that
same
talks about it
information.
that starts with, and I quote, a reinforcer is anything that occurring in conjunction with an act and tends to increase the probability that the act will occur again. Where else does that occur in any of the literature that you read?
Sorry, say that last bit again. My cat was whining.
Where else? What other book starts with a
Lucy,
reinforcer is
stop. Go.
anything that
Go. Sorry. Sorry, my cat was yelling and I want to listen to you, so I had to stop that.
What other book starts with a positive reinforcer is anything that occurring within conjunction with an act tends to increase the probability that an act will occur again? What other book has that to start?
What other book starts with explaining operant conditioning and what positive reinforcement is?
Yes.
Um, Pretty much any psychology book out there that studies
No,
human
I'm
behavior.
talking about like a book that someone who's having trouble with their dog right? What book are they going to pick up?
You can literally just go to Reddit and ask what can I do to train my dog, and everybody will say that. You don't need Karen Pryor's book to explain that to you. It's so simple. Like anybody that talks dog training can tell you. Sorry, Ash, were you going to say something?
If you go on Amazon and you look up books that are balance training, you will find hundreds of books about balance training on Kindle e-stores.
I'm going to do you a solid. Let's see.
The book that I had
Karen Pryor's not the one that started the positive reinforcement thing. It was Edward Lee Thorndike from 1874 to 1949 was the first to apply a scientific and statistical approach to motivational education and use of positive reinforcement. So why
write a book for dog trainers?
Let's see. Most likely, let me see here. I'll find this out for you.
No, I want to know if this guy, if he came up with this in 1820, whatever, did they write a book about it then and there?
There are so many accurate sources of balance training other than one person.
I'm not saying that Karen Pryor's a god. I'm saying that they're not a joke. And I think it's egregious to suggest that they're a joke when they've contributed so much to animal training, not just dogs, right? But animal training.
They're actually Karen Pryor and anybody that spouts positive only reinforcement can work for any dog with any behaviors is not doing anything good for dog training. Is not doing anything good because that's the reason why you have. That's the reason why I have a job. That's the reason why I work with reactive and aggressive animals, because people are afraid to use punishments.
Okay, right. And how do people who work in zoos work with aggressive animals and get them to do anything?
From behind a fence.
Right. And how do they get them to do the things that they ask them to do, though?
From behind a fence. You are being disingenuous because those are wild animals. Those are not dogs.
Let's say, no. Let's say there's a polar bear, an aggressive animal on the other side of a fence, and you need them to present a paw and hold it still for a blood draw. How do you do that?
Okay. How about this? Let's make it more realistic for dog training purposes. Wait, Andrew.
Reinforcement training.
Okay, so yeah, positive reinforcement. But why don't any of those trainers go in there with the polar bear at that point?
Because they're an aggressive animal and they're a wild animal.
Okay, and so therefore your
to do the things that
your argument's disingenuous. Why don't they go in there? Because they're aggressive. Guess what? Dogs are not polar bears. Dogs are not wild animals, and so therefore, if you don't use punishments, they can become aggressive, and then they can hurt people. That's why I have a job.
You can ask an aggressive animal to do something, and you can ask them to not be aggressive.
And how are you going to ask an animal to not be aggressive?
To reward them for not being aggressive.
Okay. So they're going in there into the polar bear cages and doing it without a fence? Because if they're using positive reinforcement like you're saying, and they're asking them to not be aggressive, how come they're not? How come they stay behind the fence?
Dogs as an example.
No, how come they're still using the fence at zoos to draw blood on polar bears?
Because
if they're training them not to be aggressive,
because those are wild animals.
Okay, then stop trying to argue with wild animals, dude. Then stop trying to argue with wild animals if you don't want to argue wild animals, man.
My thing is
disingenuous is what you are, man.
I'm not disingenuous.
Then come up with an argument about dog training. Then come up with an argument about dog training, not wild animal training.
You could do anything with positive reinforcement and operant conditioning training.
I have a question.
You can't. You cannot.
Go
okay.
Ahead, Ash,
okay. Here, I will give you $1,000. I will give you $1,000 if you can work for 1 hour with one of the dogs I train. I come to North Florida. I will give you $1,000. Everybody in the comment section, you can quote me on this. I've offered this many a times, and nobody will take it up if they're a positive only reinforcement trainer. Nobody will because they can't.
Are you against usage of training tools completely?
Define training tools.
Prong collar, e-collar, collar, leash, head halter, anything.
Leashes? Leashes are fine, right?
Are you against prong collars, martingales, slip chain? Because if you're against those, you're against feeding animals, using a flat collar, using a leash, using anything. Because anything that you can use on a dog can be just as bad as any training tool that you can possibly get your hands on.
So a clicker is as bad as a prong collar.
It can be.
If used incorrectly.
It can be. I use clickers as a virgin marker. When a dog doesn't like the noise, then I use it as opposite from positive reinforcement markers. It works well for that if you use it right.
Right. And you're still reinforcing, right? The positive thing for that animal is
if I'm working with the dog and trying to get them to stop something and I find out that they're noise sensitive, they don't like the sound of a clicker, then I'm going to take advantage of that and use that as a punishment.
Okay. Well, no, you're using silence as the reward.
My goodness.
I mean, are you not?
Are you also against spray bottles? Because I use that on my dog.
Or are you using the absence of water as a reward? What are you really doing here?
I am showing my dog that when he does an incorrect behavior, he gets a punishment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, using the
but when he does the thing that he's supposed to do, he doesn't get wet.
Well, isn't that the same as the absence of a stim on an e-collar? Couldn't you use the same argument as you're using right there? The absence of the stim is the reinforcement, just like the absence of the water is the reinforcement, or the absence of the sound?
Exactly.
You know, like your argument right there, Andrew, would be like, okay, you're using treats as a reward, so if the dog doesn't sit, now you're punishing the dog because you didn't give it a treat. So you're using punishment. Like, that's ridiculous.
Well, no, I never said that.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said. The absence of something is the opposite of what you're doing, is what you just said.
Well, no, the thing is, it's the presence of the reward. For an animal with a spray bottle, right? The absence of water would be the reward, is it not? The absence of a stimuli?
Actually, his reward is that he gets a treat.
No, so the way it works is you have to mark a behavior with a reward or a punishment, right? You have to mark that behavior with a reward or punishment. The absence of something is not necessarily going to speak to the dog very quickly. So if I don't give the
absence
reward,
of a negative stimuli could mean something a lot to a dog.
but you're going look if a dog is doing a behavior that I like, I'm going to reward with a treat, right, or toy or something, right? If a dog, yes, exactly. I'm not going to just not. I'm just not going to just not do anything and say the reward is me not punishing them.
If my dog runs away and will not recall, I'm not going to feed it a bunch of treats because it didn't recall.
I gave my dog.
That's the main problem with my dog.
Well, you have to ask yourself, why is your dog running away?
Oh, I know why my dog runs. Okay, runs away.
Well, I didn't mean you specifically.
My dog doesn't run away.
Okay, so there's a bunch of different things that could be used for that. So in certain breeds, you can talk about drive and prey drive and stuff like that, like a Psychound.
I taught my dog to only hump women.
No matter how amazing you are as a purely positive trainer, they are going to want to go after that. It is just genetics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or you could have a really young dog, and as soon as they get a taste of freedom, they just want to play, and they deem you chasing after them as a play.
Yeah.
So your argument there, Andrew, the condescension that was dripping off your voice just then makes it sound like they're abusive owners, so the dogs want to run away because of the emotional trauma.
Well, Chaz is absolutely right. He's talking about negative reinforcement at this point.
In this conversation, I agree with everything that this live person has on their little screenshot homepage, whatever you would call it.
Yeah, the background.
Background. But the Karen Pryor is a joke, I take offense to. I don't think Karen Pryor is a joke, and I don't think the work that they've done is a joke.
I don't think Karen
Say
Pryor.
what you will about the individual person. Say what you will about the individual person, right? J.K. Rowling is a TERF, but the work that they did is amazing. Love the Harry Potter franchise. Hate the author.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm hating Karen Pryor, I guess. If you want to say hate's a strong word, but I think Karen Pryor as an individual, as a dog trainer, is a joke because Karen Pryor does not practice what they preach. Therefore, they are a joke.
So everyone else in the live who joined, I have a question for you. When you saw Karen Pryor is a joke, did you immediately think that her work is a joke? Or the individual is a joke?
I mean, I don't really know necessarily.
You see, the work's not a joke, and the host agrees with that. Host, you need to change that last point.
Okay. I don't have enough information to have an opinion on the Karen Pryor controversy.
So, Andrew, the thing you've got to realise, mate, is Karen Pryor has basically made a cult of thousands of people who only will use one type of training and will destroy thousands of dogs because of that. RSPCA here in Australia is a classic example. They follow the Karen Pryor method, and the head of the RSPCA has come out and said they would rather put down 1,000 dogs than punish one. So you were turning around going, oh, clicker doesn't work for this one, kill it. Clicker doesn't work.
She's not telling people to kill dogs.
But
unfortunately, if you follow her method, Andrew, the only solution you have is click and treat. And if click and treat doesn't work, you're out of options.
Right. So for every wild animal that lives in human care in a zoo, right? Clicker doesn't always work with them, but positive reinforcement does. Right? It does.
Not with every animal. Certain animals have different behaviors.
Yeah, that does not work with every single animal with positive reinforcement. Especially
what animal doesn't it work with?
Large predators.
Right. So carnivores? Carnivores can't learn positive reinforcement.
It doesn't work with gorillas.
Oh,
large
well,
predators and large
Wait, guys. Host talking. So, Andrew, I want to go back again since you're bringing up wild animals. If positive reinforcement was so good, how come they're not inside the cages with those giant wild predators?
Because we want them to be wild. But we still
No. You said before the reason why they're not in there with the polar bears is because the polar bears are aggressive. Don't backtrack. That's what you said before.
Polar bears will straight up eat you.
Yes. So if positive reinforcement,
you can still ask them to do behaviors that you need them to do with positive reinforcement.
Yes. But how come you're not inside the cage with them? How come they're not inside the? How come you
can benefit from positive reinforcement training?
Yes, but again,
we are talking about dog training. Dogs can be violent. Dogs can be aggressive.
Can polar bears.
I know, but guess what?
And do you know what's the difference between a polar bear and a domestic dog?
I know several of them.
What's the big fundamental difference?
Well, one's a canid, and the other is an Ursus.
Both of them are caniform. Both of them are caniforms. What is the big difference?
You tell me.
One is an animal specifically bred to be around humans for humans, and the other one is an apex predator that will unalive and eat people, and it's one of the few animals that do.
You yourself said that apex predators could not learn positive reinforcement training. No. I want Oblivion to answer.
Let me pop in here.
Because they said that apex predators could not learn positive reinforcement training.
As someone who owns a reactive pit bull, it is instilled. It is not natural to it. It is instilled inside. It's just like those bears. You can't instill anything into them. I have taken my time to show this dog that he is no longer there.
You can instill respect in a large animal.
So
that's a wild animal. It is unpredictable.
I view faster than you think.
Okay, so
I view snap of a finger. As where a dog, it takes a lot for that dog to get upset to the point where it does not trust you. Dogs, we don't deserve them.
You're
Why are we
they're
stuck
so
on the
loyal to
wild
us.
animal part when
Because
Because
Andrew
the
keeps trying to
last
bring it
point
up
on
as
the
if positive
background says
reinforcement can do
Pryor is a
anything.
joke, and Karen Pryor is not a joke. Their
If
work
you-
is amazing. The
Also, no,
individual
actually,
is a
I can
joke,
literally,
right?
I can
And
literally
I'm
end this
just
entire
asking the
argument.
host.
I can
Andrew,
end this entire
Andrew,
argument.
wait.
No.
Oblivion, I'll let you go in a
Talk
second.
about positive reinforcement with wild animals. Here's the thing: why didn't it work with Morris Els?
Okay, so
Or here's another one. Why
Go
did
ahead,
Ti-
host.
So, Andrew, answer my question. Why didn't
No, I want to
positive
hear what the host has
reinforcement
to
work
say.
Tiger
with Morris
supposedly
Els?
respected this person?
Hold on, Andrew. Why didn't positive reinforcement work with Morris Els?
Is that the host's question?
I'm asking you. Why didn't positive reinforcement work with Morris Els?
I don't know who they are, but I can guarantee
Morris
you they
Els
were
was a
sharing
man.
space.
What I'm about
They
to
were
tell you,
sharing
Morris
space with that
Els was a
animal.
man who raised a baby who raised a baby hippo who got orphaned
Right.
because his mother
Raised a
disappeared.
wild animal.
Wait, I'm not done.
They
He
raised
raised
a
a
wild
baby.
animal.
Wait, he raised a baby hippo
Right.
because it got orphaned by its mother.
Right.
As soon as
Right.
it got to a as soon as it got to a large size, that same hippo unalived him.
Right, because they're a wild animal.
Okay.
But you can still ask that
Hey.
wild animal to
All right.
do certain things.
So
Let me
why
ask you
With
this.
positive
unalive him?
reinforcement
Okay,
Hey,
and
Andrew, let me
operant
ask you
conditioning
this. Does he
training.
look aggressive? Does this dog right here look aggressive?
I can't see any dog right now.
The dog
Okay,
that's
so-
literally right above you. This
So
one.
the problem
This one
is
right here.
you're
This
using
one right here. Does he look aggressive? There's something about this dog. This dog was
It
in
could
a
be.
fighting ring
I don't know that
for
dog. That's the
4
thing.
years.
If you
4
look at an
years.
animal, you
My
can't
dog was in
instantly tell if they're going to be aggressive. You have to
You
treat
see
them
the
him?
the
way
same way.
the way that the
You see
ears
him?
are looking, he's
He
looking
was
a little upset. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. His ears are pinned back. His tail is down. He looks
He's
like
ready
he's
to
giving
go.
the loll eye, which is when you see the whites of a dog's eyes. That's when they're about to snap.
And can you see
He
the
was in
whites
a
of that
fighting
dog's eyes?
I
They are
readjusted this.
giving that side look. And
I was
that
readjusting this
dog.
behavior
Mm-hmm.
in this picture. I was readjusting it.
Mhm.
This is a video. I took a picture of this. This is my brother's dog. This is mine. This one will snap on you. This one has the mindset of a wolf. Because
So
he
why
was
did you
abused
let your brother's dog get that close to him? that soon?
Because he's a puppy. And he
Okay, but
I
it
just
doesn't
had to
matter if it's a
recorrect
puppy or not.
this.
Why would you let that
I had
puppy
to
get so
I had
close
to
to that
recorrect
dog?
I would
when
like
you
to
knew
hear
that
what
that
Ghost
dog-
has to say, Andrew.
So this behavior was recorrected pretty dang quickly. Because I use a clicker, because clicking sounds mess with his head to the point where he's like, I don't want this anymore. This
So
dog,
the absence of the
It's
clicking
still
noise
alert.
is the positive reinforcement.
No, it's. Oh my goodness.
it's-
Okay,
it's a-
Andrew.
My
Let
thing-
me talk real quick, guys. Okay, Andrew. Quick question for you. If I were preaching to millions of people that a certain diet is the best diet in the world and they need to buy this from me because I have the best diet that's going to help them lose weight, right? And but in reality I don't use that diet, I never will, right? Would I be a joke?
Right. So did other people say that it was the best diet in the world?
No, I'm asking you, if I'm claiming that and I refuse to use said diet, would I be a joke?
Okay. But did other people say that using that diet
Don't
is good?
swerve around this. I'm asking a simple
No,
question.
I'm
Do you
not
believe?
swerving
Mate, you
around
keep
because
moving the
earlier in
fucking
this
goalpost,
conversation you
Andrew.
said
So far
other
you've turned
people
around and said positive
support
reinforcement
positive
is the only
reinforcement
way
and
to
operant
face the lie.
conditioning training. You said
I-
earlier in this argument that other people said that positive reinforcement and operant conditioning were good things, right?
So,
Other
let
people
me-
were
let me
saying
tell you
this
something
diet
else.
was good.
All four
So why is
quadrants.
this one specific person a joke?
Okay, I'm asking you, the reason why I asked that question and the reason why you won't answer, because you probably know where I'm going at, is because Karen Pryor's doing exactly that. She's preaching positive only
No, she's
reinforcement
not.
when she
You
doesn't
said
even.
you said yourself that other people preach operant conditioning and positive reinforcement training.
Do you know what operant
You
conditioning
yourself
is?
said
Do you know
that
what
there are
operant
other
conditioning?
books.
Do you know what operant conditioning is?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
I read the book.
What? No, what is
Oh
it?
my goodness.
You read the
How
book,
would you
doesn't tell me
define
what
it?
it is.
Operant
How would you
conditioning
define
uses
it?
Wait,
all
balance.
four hormones.
Wait. I want him to answer me. He just said I read the book. What is operant conditioning, Andrew?
Hang on.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even know what operant conditioning is. It's using positive and negative reinforcement, positive and negative punishment in order to allow a dog to make decisions for themselves, right?
You know, I'm
That's what-
literally holding the copy of Don't Shoot the Book.
It
Don't
does-
shoot the dog. Don't
You're
shoot
trying
the
to
dog.
argue dog
Don't
training
shoot
and you
the
don't even know
officer.
what operant conditioning is.
Oh,
The thing is,
Lord.
the book is not operant conditioning. Operant conditioning uses positive and negative reinforcement and positive and negative punishment. If you go back and look at the creation of operant conditioning, it uses all four things. So you cannot turn around and say you know how to use operant conditioning
And what
when you
book?
only use
What
one
book?
half of
No,
the
hold on.
quadrant.
What
No,
book
no,
is this
give me a
all
minute.
in? No,
me a minute.
who wrote the book? Who wrote the book that this is all in?
What the fuck are you talking about? She
He's
didn't
talking-
create operant conditioning.
Who wrote the book?
Complete
Who
fucking
wrote the book
moron.
that this is all in?
It's not all in there. The only thing that she preaches in that book is positive reinforcement, which is one
And
quadrant of operant conditioning.
Yes.
Operant
No, it's in
conditioning
here
is
too.
not
Andrew.
was not created
Lord
by
have
Karen
mercy.
Pryor.
Good
You
night,
fucking
everyone.
fucking
Before-
muppet.
Balance, give me a second. Andrew, why do you think I use a clicker for my dog? To show him negative actions equal negative responses. Positive actions equal high value reward.
Same thing with my dog that you see on the screen. Negative reactions, he gets a spray bottle. Positive reactions, he gets treats.
Okay, actually, let's take this one step back. Okay, let's ignore operant conditioning since we're talking about clicker training. What's classical conditioning? Oh, did he leave?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
left because he knows he's
Okay.
wrong. Because Skinner
Yeah.
created fucking conditioning,
called him out.
not Karen Pryor.
Yeah. And also, the only reason why I don't use a clicker with Bishop is because he doesn't respond to it.
Yeah.
He's coming back, I believe.
Depends on the dog.
And like that's the thing. Like I know people who are
And
like,
I heard the whole thing,
Oblivion,
not
Oblivion.
Karen
Let me
Pryor,
tell you-
right? So
Okay,
why is
Andrew.
Karen Pryor a joke? No.
Andrew, what's
You literally
My
just turned
whole
around and said
issue
that
with
Karen
this
Pryor
life-
created operant conditioning. You fucking idiot.
I love
Wow,
Balance.
okay.
Balance, you gotta follow, dude.
so? Andrew,
My thing
Andrew,
is
the
that
reason
Karen
why
Pryor is not a joke. They're not a joke.
the reason why I believe Karen Pryor is a joke is because she makes claims that she can do certain things when she actually can't. She preaches to millions of people that certain methods are the best methods and the only methods you need to use when she uses other methods that she claims doesn't work.
Can you
Because
stop?
they
And you know what's funny? You know what's
please,
funny?
Andrew?
Well,
You
hang on.
absolute
You know what's
fucking
Hey, Andrew,
muppet.
you want to hear something funny?
a Muppet?
You ever
Lord
seen
have
an
mercy.
MWD in action working? I have. I see exactly what they've done. It is a reactive dog. You have to hit it with a reactive punishment.
So you should hit
that
dogs.
exact attention that you
Oh,
need.
for fuck's sake!
Recap.
Hit was used as a fucking term, you idiot.
He wasn't talking about
What else
physically.
would hit
No.
abu-
What else would it be
hit them with a
described as
clicker.
though?
Like
You-
when he said when he said you need to hit it with this type of punishment, he's not talking about physically hitting a dog. He's talking about adding. He said hit as in applying is what he was saying. You know that. Stop trying to be disingenuous.
Take my words and twist.
No, they said hit.
Yeah, they hit. Okay,
And
look.
so far, you've moved the goalpost 4 times. You've turned around and said that wild animals can't be trained, but you can get certain behaviors. out of them.
Andrew,
But
if
you
I
can
if I
behavior
if I
modify
hit
wild
a
animals.
if I take a hit of a cigar, am I punching the cigar?
You are the most
Andrew,
disingenuous.
there is a
You are
difference
literally
between
the.
hitting
You are
a dog
literally
with
the
a
fucking-
punishment and physically hitting a dog. You don't ever physically hit a dog because guess what
Never.
that does?
Okay.
Immediately.
So
that
how
dog
else
doesn't
would
wanna come near you.
someone who just scrolled into this live hear you hit the dog?
He said, "I'm going to
You
hit the dog
didn't
with a
just scroll
punishment."
in this live.
Oh
You
my
fucking-
goodness!
You,
And if
you
they-
have so far moved the goalpost 4 times. You started off when we were talking about wild animals. You can behaviour modify with purely positive reinforcement. And they went, no, you can't because they're a wild animal. Oh, but you can
Hey,
get certain behaviours
canine.
out of them.
No,
Hey,
yes,
sister.
you can modify the behavior
Have
of a
you
wild
really-
animal with positive reinforcement. You can. I never said that you couldn't.
cannot
What kind
move
of
away
shit
from
show did I
it,
just walk
Andrew.
into?
Just
You cannot
listen.
turn
You're
around
good.
and
You'll
turn
love
a
this.
fucking old man into a house cat with a clicker.
It's kind of funny.
You can't.
So Andrew,
do it.
since you're all about Karen Pryor and the clicker training, what's classical conditioning?
And don't say Karen Pryor wrote the book on it, because there were people before her who created this.
Well, of
modality.
course there were
You are
people
literally
before
looking
her
at a
who
book
wrote the
for a
book.
person
Lord
who
have mercy.
doesn't use her own methods, turning around and saying that she is the one who created this. You have no idea what you're
hold
talking
on,
about.
You're going to scream at me and you're not going to let me talk about B.F. Skinner?
Okay, so what's classical conditioning, Andrew?
It's bridging a stimulus, right?
Using what?
Using anything. A click. Anything.
So what is
An event marker, right? Any kind of event marker can bridge the stimulus. Hey, I made you click. Watch me. I'm going to do it again.
all right, so balance, we have to be careful about yeah, you got flagged.
Yeah, about swearing, because about to say, you were saying some pretty nasty things to me, man.
Andrew.
And I agree with a
we
lot
don't
of
want
things
this
you have
live
to
to get
say.
ended.
Let's take it back a
agree.
little bit. So classical conditioning.
No, and that's why I'm saying
what is
that
classical?
I agree with y'all more than I disagree.
So
I agree with you
what
guys
is
more
classical?
than I disagree, because I don't work with dogs. Y'all work with dogs, and I respect that, right?
Yeah, so clicker
I just
training
don't think Karen
utilizes
Pryor is a
classical
joke.
clicker training utilizes classical conditioning. So what is the difference between classical conditioning and operant
Is
conditioning?
this a test or is this a
No,
debate?
yes, I'm testing your knowledge on dog training, and the reason why I'm doing that is because you keep spitting stuff about operant conditioning and positive reinforcement and Karen
Listen,
Pryor,
my
but you
background
read a
isn't
single
in dog
book.
training.
You read
I have read a single book.
okay, but you're up here trying to argue with professionals, experienced professionals in this world when you
animal
know
training
very
or dog
little
training?
about it. Like you're pretty much the flat earther of dog training right now.
Mate,
Okay,
you've
are
turned
we
around.
talking
The reason
animal training or dog training?
it's all the same, bud.
Is it all the same? Because I work alongside hundreds of animal trainers that I respect and I look up to.
Yeah,
and
you don't
they
even know what
swear
operant
by
conditioning is. Weird.
Operant conditioning and
What-
positive
what's-
reinforcement training.
Andrew,
But-
what type of animal training do you work around?
Do I work around?
Yes.
Operant conditioning and positive reinforcement training.
No.
What
Like
animals do you work around?
what specific animals do you
Okay.
work around?
You know,
Polar
you can just say
Elephant.
operant conditioning. You don't have to add positive
Tigers.
reinforcement because that's still part of
bears,
operant
painted
conditioning.
dogs.
So what you're saying is you
Wild
work at a
animals.
zoo?
I work at a zoo.
Right.
You work
Okay.
at it.
So you're aware of the fact that, like, in a zoo, you can't use an e-collar because e-collars don't fit on
Exactly.
friggin' polar bears and stuff
Well,
like that,
and
dude.
it's not right to use an e-collar and a polar
But
bear.
even what I'm saying to you is, so this is the problem, is you've moved the goalposts like 3 or 4 times. So when we were talking originally about polar bears, tigers, and stuff like that, right? You said you can modify their behavior, right? Now, you can, to a certain extent, modify your behavior. You also
You
cannot
can.
change them genetically from what they are with a clicker. Now, so far in your argument, you may not have meant to be this disingenuous, but you really did come across this way. You turned around and said that you can change any behavior with a clicker. So you can turn a polar bear into a house cat. And we said, no, you can't because they're a wild animal.
I
And you
never
went-
said
you
that.
went-
I never said that. I said you can ask a polar bear to exhibit behaviors that the care team needs to serve their husbandry needs. So if we
Okay.
need them to present a paw, we can ask them to present a paw.
Yeah,
I never
and-
said
You
could
don't
turn them into a
simply
house cat.
ask a polar bear to present a paw.
So
yes, you do.
Andrew, I
Yes,
get
you
what
do.
you're
You
saying.
don't.
Yes,
That's
you
a
do.
learned behavior.
I get what you're saying,
And
Andrew.
how is
I really
it
do.
learned?
Andrew,
how
I
is
get
it
what you're
learned?
saying. I get
Okay,
what you're
go
saying,
ahead,
but when it
go ahead.
comes to dog training, you have to use punishment as well as reinforcement, or the dog will never understand what is unacceptable behavior, and that's why we end up with dogs that are reactive and aggressive. And since dogs are supposed to be either working or companion animals, we cannot allow them to just be aggressive and just look at them from behind a cage. That's not how reality works.
And at the end of the day, in a zoo, if that animal does not want to initially, And I have worked with a lot of people in zoos. If you go up to a tiger that day and you turn around and go, hey, let's do this, and they go, basically go F yourself and try and eat you, they shoot them with a tranquilizer dart, because wild animals are wild animals. They don't necessarily always do what you want them to do.
And they
Well,
have
as a
mindset.
professional, no, I'm going to pause there. As a professional, if a wild animal living in a zoo doesn't do what the care team asks them to do, we wouldn't shoot them with a tranquilizer dart.
You would if they start
Unless it was an
presenting aggressive
emergency.
behavior.
Unless it was an emergency, and most accredited zoos don't share space with their animals anymore. So
Okay,
they're not
yeah.
going in with the tigers.
Hey,
right?
Andrew, let me ask you this.
With the dogs. That's the thing.
When I was overseas, do you think we immediately thought about shooting that dog with tranquilizer?
I don't know where you're going with
You know
this, but
why?
go ahead.
Because we never once had to worry about that dog going after someone that we didn't intend for it to go after, right? As where those animals will go after anything that moves. Because guess what? It is a primal instinct for them to click on something, lock eyes, and go after. It is that prey drive for them. Dogs have a different kind of prey. Talking to you is like talking to a wall.
So the difference is and as I said, Karen Pryor has a cult of personality around her and around her training, right? Especially when it comes to small animals like dogs, right?
Hey, Small Potato, can I remove you and add Angel up? She's a professional trainer, and she might have some good input as well.
Before you do that, may I ask
Professional
you-
dog trainer, or what kind of professional trainer?
One
are we
second,
talking about?
Potato. 1 second, Andrew. Potato, what were you gonna say?
So I wanted to ask Andrew a question real quick. Just like, a random question. This is a random animal fact that I know. So why shouldn't observers, zoo people that come to the zoo, why shouldn't they smile at gorillas?
Well, they shouldn't smile at chimpanzees, because chimpanzees, in their behavioral language, smiling is an act of aggression, right? But gorillas are different. Gorillas is more eye contact. So get your species right, first off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
smiling
you're gonna come
at
at me with
gorillas,
that,
you get the same
right?
response.
Yeah, you get the same response.
Gorillas show dominance by showing their teeth.
So did chimpanzees. I mean, apes in general do that. But most
Except for
gorillas
orangutans,
just the only
because
ones that
orangutans are
don't.
different. But that's a whole nother thing.
But yeah, I just wanted to ask that. Just wondering.
You're good, Potato. Somebody else dropped down. Angel's up.
Alrighty. Oh, all right.
Hey, K9.
Hey, Angel.
Interesting conversation tonight.
Yes, it is. It is. And anybody in the comments, if you're enjoying this conversation and a debate or whatever this is, go ahead and spam that like button. We can get some more people in here to learn about some dog stuff and zoo stuff, apparently.
I just wanted to
Angel, it's been a
reiterate-
while. I haven't seen you gone live in a while.
Oh, I've been live frequently. I just haven't.
Yeah. Oh, real quick before we continue this, guys, I want to answer a question that I keep seeing in the comments. Flooding. Flooding is where you're purposely overstimulating a dog or an animal. And you'll see it in falconry a lot, but in dog training, you're purposely overstimulating the dog, and a lot of times it does shut the dog down. There's other reasons for it. For instance, like surface animal training, going into a high populated area, it does flood the dog, stimulates the dog, but it tends to not put them over threshold. But that's what flooding is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Andrew,
my whole reason that I joined this in the first place is because I disagree with the idea that all of Karen Pryor is a joke.
okay,
She
so
is absolutely a joke.
So you said you agree with everything else, like sometimes flooding is necessary?
Depends on the animal, and if it's a dog, sure.
Okay, well, Karen Pryor,
I
it
don't
would
know-
be 100% against that, right?
Yeah. She would
So
be.
what part of Karen Pryor do you actually agree with?
Her book.
Like, what about her?
Don't shoot the dog.
I'm asking you, Andrew. You brought it up.
Look, I read the book Don't Shoot the Dog. That was my first introduction, and many people's first introduction to the idea of positive reinforcement and operant conditioning training, right?
And then you became an Karen Pryor idealist before you knew much about her background.
Well,
and I tried to explain to you her
layperson,
background, and you just said no.
As a layperson, right? I saw Karen Pryor as a joke. She's not a joke. There was a lot of good things in that book. And that's why I came on the live, right? So what I'm suggesting is that you just change that last point for the layperson who might have just read one book.
Why would I do that when I can have great conversation like we're having right now?
So wait, so
The whole idea of having topics like this that are controversial is to start the conversation so people ask questions. That's why it's put there. The way he's wording it is to get a conversation started.
So,
because a lot of it's been calling me a fucking an idiot, you know.
Yeah,
a lot of
110%. I have been calling you an idiot because you've come onto this live and turning around and
well,
telling.
I'm glad you agree. I'm glad you agree that you think I'm an idiot.
But you've been coming onto the live. You came onto the live and you have been arguing with professionals who work in this industry.
Well, I'm a professional who works in this industry too.
You don't
Am
work
I not?
with dogs, though.
Yeah, but you've
I
literally
don't work
just
with
said,
dogs.
You've
You work
literally
with zoo
said
animals.
Andrew, you have literally just
work
said
with
to us
dogs?
that you've read.
I work with animals.
He works
That
with zoo
wasn't the
animals.
question.
He works with zoo animals.
That wasn't. I. Do you work with dogs? So was the question.
I work with animals.
Okay, that's very broad and general.
Right.
The question
Some of those
is,
animals
have
happen to be
you-
canids.
The question is, have you worked with canines?
Not domestic dogs. No.
Okay.
And as I said,
So I feel like I should just leave this conversation now. Then.
Okay, so
Since
Andrew,
this
so
conversation it seems to be leaning towards specifically domestic dogs.
It is.
yeah, I mean, it is. If you read everything that I have on the topic, it's dog, dog, dog.
I just took offense to the statement Karen Pryor is a joke.
Oh,
'cause
I get
don't
it.
think
tell everyone
they're
that,
not.
that they don't know what they're talking about. And now that people have actually come up
I'm
and
not
said to you,
trying to say that y'all are wrong. Y'all know more than I do about domestic dogs.
Okay,
I'll
and I
concede
know
that.
more than you do about who Karen Pryor is as an individual and their background. And
That you do.
that's my
That you
problem,
do.
Andrew, and that's my
like
problem with your argument. It's great that you love the clicker training and positive reinforcement training. That's great. But when I try to explain to you why I believe Karen Pryor as an individual is a joke, and you basically just try to just blow that off and say, no, I'm an idealist now, and I take offense from
I
that.
read this book and
Andrew, I will bet you right here and right now that I know more about wild animal behavior than you.
Can I give you all an analogy?
Sure.
And
I
I
mean, you
used
can,
this
sure.
analogy
Send it.
before, but Angel didn't hear this before. Or maybe they did. I don't know. Let's say I'm a diehard Harry Potter fan, right? And I'm scrolling through TikTok Live, and all of a sudden I see a TikTok Live saying J.K. Rowling is a joke.
She is.
And I don't know. Now, hang on. And I don't know anything about J.K. Rowling at that time, right?
Then you
I'm
should
just a
probably not
diehard
come up
Harry
and argue for her sake if you don't know enough information.
The thing is,
But how would I know what I don't
Then-
know?
Then
come up
rather
and ask
How
than
would I know what I
questions.
don't know?
Instead of arguing it, come up and ask questions. That's the biggest difference, right, Andrew? You came up arguing tooth and
But
nail
when you have,
without
a
having the
statement-
knowledge.
Andrew,
But if you
so the
have
thing
a
is,
statement like that, right?
you didn't stop.
Someone's going to be reactive. If
You
they
didn't
don't
stop.
know the backstory, they're going to be reactive, and
Oh,
that's what I was.
If
Well,
somebody
yeah,
has
I
if somebody
already-
has a large ego, sure they'll be reactive. But if somebody actually wants to learn
I
and
think
understand
any-
where it's coming from, they'll ask questions rather than come and pew pews blazing.
If I was a diehard Harry Potter fan and I didn't know anything about J.K. Rowling and I saw someone say that they're a joke, I would be aggressive. I would be guns a-blazing.
but
You're not a diehard Harry Potter fan if you don't know about J.K. Rowling and the bullshit she's done. I mean,
But
I'm
a
sorry.
lot of people
but,
aren't.
like,
But
A lot of
logically-
people aren't.
Okay,
logically speaking,
even so,
I guarantee you, a lot of people aren't.
even so,
And I do know about J.K. Rowling now, but I appreciate the art still.
So idealism, you'll see it a lot in the dog training world as well, and it's unfortunately horrible where you have a lot of hate between different types of dog training methodologies because of idealism, right? And it's a horrible practice and approach to go, right? So it goes across the board with anything, right? So if you're a Harry Potter idealist, right, you're going to ignore everything that J.K. Rowling has ever done because you love the series so much, right? Just like Karen Pryor over here, if you're an idealist for Karen Pryor, you're going to ignore everything. Now, the difference is, though, Andrew, is that you didn't really know about that past with Karen Pryor utilizing e-collars because she can't control her own dogs from running away and never coming back.
On the converse, though, would you ignore everything Karen Pryor has to say because you know about Karen Pryor?
If I'm gonna take advice from somebody
that's just as bad. That's just as bad.
I have hundreds of other trainers out there that can teach me the exact same thing without me condoning Karen Pryor.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm gonna
sandwich.
Hey, let me talk for a second. If I'm going to use something as a means to teach myself about something in my field, then I'm going to do my research. I'm going to make sure that I am understanding who these people are, what their credentials are that are putting out these books, because there's so much flooded stuff on the market of bullshit that these people put out there. And so understanding and doing my research on a topic, especially something that's in my field of work, before I decide that if I'm going to incorporate it into my training or not. It's called doing your research. It's called understanding who these people are and who is.
So would you say the methods that Karen Pryor used shouldn't be used?
I'm saying I'm not going to take information from somebody who's a batshit crazy person, and I'm rather going to find more reliable sources from somebody.
So you're not going to use the information.
No, I'm going to find the information elsewhere from other people.
Right.
But the thing is,
so Karen it's the same information, but a different person.
So
Karen Pryor didn't create the methodology, mate.
Right, that's what I'm saying. It's the same information
from Gary.
It's the same information.
Gary Wilkes was actually the one that Karen Pryor utilized to become famous.
Yeah, I would rather go back to the source.
Sorry, Angel. Sorry, you go, mate.
When I was in college and I'm reading something, I'm going to look at the resources links that they have in an article, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at those and I'm going to see what those say. I'm going to look at the people that did the research first and see what they say as well. I'm not just going to go off of one source. And if I know for a fact that Karen Pryor is a bullshit person, I'm not going to be able to trust anything that comes out of her mouth.
Okay.
So I would rather
Angel,
find,
I'm curious.
if I'm going to have that information, then I'm going to go through a reliable source. That's what they teach you when you're in college, is to go and find the reliable sources and not use bullshit things like Wikipedia.
So Angel, what are your thoughts on B.F. Skinner?
B.F. Skinner?
Yeah, B.F. Skinner. Psychologist B.F. Skinner.
I don't believe I've read anything by him.
So he's the one who created operant and classical conditioning.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I've gone through my textbooks.
Yeah.
For
what do you think about B.F. Skinner, Angel?
Okay,
so I can tell you anybody. We can talk about B.F. Skinner. We can talk about Ivan Pavlov. We can talk about any old school person that did a lot of studies and research. And I'll say that that is great that they did the research, but they did things very poorly. But we learned a whole lot from them. I can say that we learned a whole lot from them, even though their ways of doing things was probably not appropriate.
I mean, B.F. Skinner's methodology was very controversial. I will say that.
So if we're talking about old school methods and stuff like that, there's more recent research and more recent stuff that's come out. So,
so the thing with B.F. Skinner in of himself is that you got to take into consideration the times. So at first, he did not have the kind of technology that we have today, right? So he had to do with what he had to make the experiments in a way that he was allowed within his boundaries and within his limits.
So I learned about operant conditioning from my textbooks and going through school. So I haven't gone through all of that yet. I'm still in school. I'm still getting certifications for service dog training and everything like that. I'm still in school. I'm still learning. I'm still doing my own research. I'm still reading all these different books. I've only been doing this for 5 years, and I train service dogs. So I'm still learning. I'm always learning. I'm always doing new research and finding new things and new methods and incorporating them into my program for service dogs. So
you think Karen Pryor's methods are automatically out because of the person that they are?
I'll say that that if you want to say that positive reinforcement only can fix any type of behavioral issue, it's BS, and you're setting the dogs up for failure, and you're setting other people up for failure.
No, I'm asking Angel, are Karen Pryor's methods completely out because of the person that they are? Or is there any validity in what she has to say?
It's not just that. I've read her shit, and using positive reinforcement only is setting your dog up for failure.
So the problem with Karen Pryor's method, Andrew, and as I said, I'll give you credit where credit's due when you turned around and admitted the fact that you were a layperson.
Live one out.
Okay, so I'm
a professional. Thank you.
I'll give you credit where credit's due when you turned around and said that you were a layperson. So there's 3 things I want to point out here to start with. First of all, you said you didn't understand that this would be a live about. Okay, you said you were, but righto. You said you wouldn't understand that this would be a live about domestic canines. The person who runs the live is called Canine Informer. So you came up fighting tooth and nail, ready to go, and you admitted you know nothing about domestic dogs.
I didn't see the username. I saw the background.
Okay.
On the live.
All right, and I understand that. Okay, cool, fantastic. So the problem with Karen Pryor, and the reason I would turf out her book and just be like, this is absolute garbage, is because Karen Pryor ignores, if you read her book and you follow her terminology and you follow the way that she sets it up, it throws out the rest of operant conditioning, it throws out the rest of classical conditioning, and it says if this dog does not do this by this standard, which is what a lot of agencies use now, the RSPCA in Australia, the American, I'm pretty sure there's like Animal Welfare League over in America, things like that, where they have these animals, they have these dogs, and they go, if it does not do this, there is something fundamentally wrong with the dog, and they use that as an excuse to put the dog down. Now, yes, you said
where does it say that in the book?
Yeah, I know. You said yourself that the name of the book is Don't Shoot the Dog. I agree with you. 110%. The name of the book is Don't Shoot the Dog. However, the book also doesn't offer any other resources. They go, this will fix it.
Oh, by the way, the book title wasn't coined by Karen Pryor. It was coined by the people that were producing that book for her. So the editors made the title for her.
Let me read the resources, because he said that there was no other resources in the book. It has email address of the Association of Behavior Analytics, the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, Aubrey Daniels Associates, the Cambridge Center for Behavioral Sciences, Dog and Cat book catalog. Like, there's a lot of resources in the back of this book if you actually read it.
There, Andrew. I'm saying that there is no alternative. If that her methodology is, if positive reinforcement doesn't work, where in her book does it say, okay, move on to aversives, or move on to this, or move on to that? Now, the last.
You'll look at the resources.
What's that, mate?
So let's break down the different resources she has. For instance, the College of Behavior. If you actually look at their mission statement or their position statement, and then use the scientific surveys and case studies that they do, peer review studies, you'll actually see that every single one of those are either biased surveys or they're inconclusive. So even with that said,
what resource is this again, host? Repeat the resource again.
You said, what was it? The Cambridge College of Animal Behavior?
The Cambridge Center for Behavioral Studies.
Yeah. Go to there. Go to them, and then start looking up their peer review research. Start looking up their peer review research and read the research.
What's their website, though?
Oh my goodness. You want me to
so-
Google it for you, or can you?
Can I?
Well, you
doing
seem
that?
to know it
My
off the top of your head. I would assume you would know where the information is.
My final point that I'm going to
Just
Can I-
like
can I
how
address something?
everyone's coming at me saying, what's this in the book? And anyway, definitions.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Canine, can I address something in the comments?
Go ahead. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay, so somebody was asking about what we use for methods. So balance training, right? Punishment with reinforcement. That is what we use. Punishment with reinforcement, reinforcement with punishment. It's setting boundaries with a dog. So using the 4 quadrants of operant conditioning rather than just one, which is what these positive reinforcement only people use, it sets the dog up for failure because you're never teaching it boundaries.
And the other thing is with positive reinforcement and with the Karen Pryor method in the way that you're using it inside of a zoo, it's better suited for a zoo because at the end of the day, the main reason why these dogs, we use all 4 conditions, all 4 quadrants in conditioning and training with dogs is, at the end of the day, we can't put them back in a cage and just leave them there because they don't want to do it. These dogs go out with people every day. These dogs go out and work every day. These dogs, in my case, go out with me every night when I go to work and make sure I come home safe to my family. So these dogs are not necessarily something of, they just don't feel like doing it today. We'll just put them back in their enclosure and let them run around. So the Karen Pryor method works if you have attrition over time. And even then, it doesn't necessarily modify behavior. It just turns around and goes, I'm hungry, so I'm going to do X. Or I'm hungry, so I'm going to do Y.
And,
because at the end of the
I
day,
just,
if you have a well-fed animal, and you can attest to this, you guys use high-value food as a thing to, like, here's a leg
Not
of
their primary diet, though.
No,
Important to note, not their primary diet.
No, but
I need that to be
high-value
addressed.
reward.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's their high-value reward. But at the same
This
time,
one will let you up in a minute.
you will admit as well that if you turn around with if they're well fed, so if they've had their diet,
Small potato, can I 1 second balance? Small potato, can I switch you out with Ghost 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
and you present them with this high-value food, right, and they're well fed, it's been proven, they've shown it before, that they're more likely to look at the food and go, don't really feel like it today. And in that case, you guys go, okay, I guess we'll do it tomorrow. So this is what I'm saying, is that you have this ideology based on your experience where you are in a very, very controlled environment, where most animal trainers, most canine trainers and stuff like that, when they have to operate in the real world, are not in this sterile environment that you have.
Yep, because if my dog
hang on. Could I give a rebuttal to that really quick?
If my dog in public does something where it hurts somebody, then I'm not only on the hook for my dog hurting somebody, but my dog could be put down. That's why it's so important for us to train these dogs to be able to function in public and not in a zoo environment where we can just lock it in.
Hang on,
Andrew, real quick before your rebuttal, real quick.
I want to give her a rebuttal.
Andrew.
I know. Just real quick. I'm just gonna piggyback off of I believe what Balance was saying. There's a lot of times, for instance, killer whale or orca training.
Hang on. I need to give her a.
So during killer whale or orca, stay muted or be quiet for a second. Host is speaking. So with orca killer whale training, where it's the same type of environment with positive only reinforcement, there's plenty of times you can see it over and over again where they have to stop the show because the orca blew off the positive reinforcements, the fish or whatever they were using for the show because the orca just didn't care about it. Right. So that's just a very strong example of wild animals blowing off their training because they just don't feel like it.
May I also pop in here with an example?
Can I?
Okay. Let Andrew go real quick because he's been waiting patiently.
Thank you. Yeah. I have been. Thank you. Because I have an example that exactly contradicts what y'all have been saying, right? Because an animal who lives in a zoo, who's fed their primary diet, when offered a high reward treat, will still do something that they're asked to do. And I saw an example of this today. Swear on God. our elephants, right? We had grandmother Pearl, right? So grandma of our multi-generational family group of elephants went over to her granddaughter, who she's not very close to. Now, preface, they had been eating hay. They had been given their primary diet. They're munching down hay. They're full. Life is good, right? Pearl goes over and touches her granddaughter on her stomach. Granddaughter doesn't like that. There's an altercation between the two. They're chasing each other around the habitat. Elephants, right? Big animals. They can do whatever they want. What did the care team do? They called for Pearl, threw out the high reward food item for Pearl, and what happened? Pearl listened to them, followed them, and shifted into another habitat.
Yeah, guess what, Andrew? You're dealing with elephants, and you're dealing with a matriarch. She's old.
So with that, that only tells me.
I never said Pearl was a matriarch. I never said Pearl was a matriarch.
Andrew, what that's just saying, what that just tells us is that Pearl is very food motivated. That's all that tells us. If Pearl wasn't
also
food motivated,
she's experienced. She's old.
If Pearl wasn't food motivated, then Pearl would not have done that.
Can I give an example?
Okay, so where's balance? Where's the person who brought up the idea that animals, when fed their primary diet, will not respond to high reward treats, high reward food items?
Hey, Andrew, that's different with dogs. Dogs are very.
And that's the whole crux of my thing, right? Listen, I have to go to bed. Could I just say one more piece and then I'm going to go? All right. I come from a different animal background than y'all.
Sure.
Okay. I don't agree that Karen Pryor is a joke.
Okay.
I agree that they have some great ideas. Maybe I need to look a little more into the canine side of things, because obviously there's a lot of controversy, right?
Oh, for sure.
But I would just ask, and I know you're not going to listen to this, but I would ask that you amend that statement into saying that Karen Pryor is a joke in the world of dog training. Because what they have to say, there's a lot of good stuff, right?
Hey, Optima, you're yeah.
Can I say before you go? The difference between a wild animal. Can I say before you go? The difference between a wild animal. That dog isn't mainly food driven. It's a prey drive mainly. And correct me if I'm wrong here, y'all, but they understand this is the food that we're given. But if I can react properly to something that I'm told to do, I get this big treat. I get this. This is what I've earned. And it's never, oh, hey, you know what? I'm going to deny listening to whatever they're going to say. No, it's the minute they see your hand reach into, let's say, the treat bag. Boom. Okay, I'm going to listen up. As where that big animal that you're talking about will not react the same way, because it does not understand, hey, if I listen properly, I'm going to get that treat.
I think any animal would understand that.
No.
Well, not all dogs are food motivated.
So I'm about to blow this out the water. Andrew, have you been around reptiles?
Listen, I want to thank Captain Shiny.
Have you been around reptiles?
Right? Saying that I get it. It's bait. This is all bait. They respect that I came up and said what I had to say.
Because
I said what I had to say. I need to go to bed because I have to work at my job tomorrow. Right? I have to work at my job.
Real quick before you go,
I've seen alligators be target trained. I will say that. I've seen alligators be target trained.
I target trained monitor lizards.
Damn.
Right. They can be target trained.
Yeah, and guess what? There are going to be times where they're not going to listen to it.
Cool.
Especially croc monitors.
All right. Well, have fun with the croc monitors. Listen.
So, yeah.
I mean no disrespect.
You would not make
no
that
disrespect
statement
for anyone in this life.
If you've been around reptiles.
I've been around plenty of reptiles, and I mean no disrespect to anyone in this life. But I'm going to go now. Have fun talking about me after I go.
I tried to be respectful, man. Informer, that was like talking to a wall.
It was for the most part. I'm trying to fix my background, guys. I screwed it
Go
up.
ahead, I got the rest.
How do you always do that? I'm heading out, guys. I'm going to the zoo bright and fucking early tomorrow with the dog.
Are you?
That's
Mama?
I am.
Are you serious?
I'm going to the zoo tomorrow.
Go say hi to the elephants for
Go
us.
say hi to Andrew for us.
Let's
Yeah,
see
go
if
say hi to
his
Andrew
let's
for
see if
us.
his lions are clicker trained.
Listen, go
Should I
say
bring my
hi to
clicker
Mama
with me?
Pearl.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Say hi to all those target corrected alligators.
Yeah, I'm actually going to the zoo tomorrow with my daughter and I and our service dogs, and so I'll bring my clicker and see if any of them are clicker trained.
See
Okay,
if the
so
gators
Well,
are
actually,
heel trained.
to be fair, Angel, I did know. I was actually talking to a neighbor of mine. His brother actually owns 2 alligators, and he did training with the clicker.
balance.
So it is possible.
That's wild.
So I really do hope Andrew
Wow.
sticks to his words and actually goes and starts researching into canine behavior and training methodologies. I
won't.
really hope he does.
He won't.
He won't.
He won't.
I'm
won't.
going to bed. Good night, guys.
Good night,
Good
Angel.
night.
Hey,
Um,
Canine, I just want to apologise, man, for going off like I did. He was
No,
just-
you're fine. Like you're good. Like I was so close as well, and I was like, no, I got to keep my composure here. I usually am really good with keeping my composure, but I let things sometimes. And then right when it gave me that little flag, I was like, oh, got to correct this real quick.
yeah. No, you're all right, man. You're all right.
Rare.
So I don't know who was here for the entire thing, but when it was just me and him, when he started bringing up polar bears and how you can clicker train or target train a polar bear so that way you can draw blood safely, right? And so what I was trying to explain to him was that because what his statement was, his position statement on this was that positive reinforcement can even with aggressive animals can get them to do what you ask them to do. And I said, okay, then why are they not inside that cage with that polar bear? And he's like, well, because they're aggressive. I'm like, exactly. I said, so positive reinforcement isn't going to fix that aggression. And then he completely blew that off and then kept going down the same rabbit hole, and it just
the thing with
it was hard. It was hard to
animals
try to explain things.
He blew
is
his
that
own argument.
you can't just expect to train a wild animal. You have to know their behaviors. Even if their behaviors are unpredictable, if not 9 out of 10 times, their behavior is, somewhat random. I mean, have you guys seen that TikTok where the 2 girls had accidentally gotten stuck inside of the enclosure with that one gorilla because he had gotten out because his door malfunctioned while they were trying to give him his feed? He ran at them both, and one was in the door, and I was like, why didn't she close the door? And the camera panned over, and there was another poor girl on the other end of the pen, and I was like, oh no. She's holding a bucket, by the way, and any wrong move, and this gorilla's looking directly at her, by the way, making direct eye contact with her. So she looks down. She doesn't look at him. And she tries to kind of slowly walk away from him. And he gets upset. And he starts running at her again. But he runs at the wall. And he makes that stance, pounds his chest, and then makes that bowed stance, if you know what I mean, where they have both their arms on the floor and their back is arched,
like they're gonna charge, right?
Yep. So she's looking down, but she's also trying to look up every now and then to see where he's at. So the girl that's at the door throws a bucket on the other end of the pen, and he goes running the other way, and the girl that's on the other end slowly, she doesn't run, she slowly inches towards the door, and they both shut that door and they lock it. And again, he had thrown a whole bucket full of feed across the pen before she could get away from him, and a whole bucket of feed is about 30 pounds. He tossed that shit like it was a
feather.
A feather. He
Oh
tossed
yeah, I
it
know
across
which
that
video.
pen.
So I do want, okay, so something's been on my mind about Andrew, okay? So I'm really trying to think about that whole thing and him saying that he trains animals at the zoo, then he changed it to he works with trainers at the zoo and yada yada, right?
Yeah,
Well,
he don't work at a zoo. He works at a
he works at the zoo, but he's he works at a concession stand, and his entire knowledge of animal training is based on that book by Karen Pryor.
Fuck that. He works at in the exotic center at PetSmart.
Like I said, I would have if you would have given me 30 minutes, I would have destroyed his entire arguments. Hell, he destroyed his own argument.
I know he did.
He definitely was.
He destroyed his own argument when I asked him why didn't positive reinforcement work with Moriels, and if he actually did work with animals, he would know the story of Moriels. For those who don't know, he raised a baby hippo that was orphaned, and the baby hippo unalived him in the same river he rescued him.
So let me address a couple comments real fast, guys. Okay, so first off, we have Mob saying, I train my dog with positive reinforcement. Great. Most people do train their dogs with positive reinforcement, but they also need to apply punishment as well, so the dog knows what is and is not acceptable behavior. Next one was dogs can't learn when they're over arousal. It needs to be taught to where threshold is increased. Yes and no. So first, yes, dogs when they're over threshold, they can't learn. Correct. But it needs to be taught to where threshold is increased. I think you're talking about where I'm talking about flooding is necessary sometimes. Sometimes you can't get to that point because they're always over threshold no matter what. So you can't get there.
I have a great example of that with flooding, when flooding is sometimes necessary. So we transport our dogs in the back of, trying to make the American word, pickup trucks with open cages. So when we go to work, we get a dog, chuck it up in the back of the pickup truck, drive to work, and we drive around, do patrols, that sort of stuff with our canines. Right. When you get a puppy, they're never going to be used to that. So you start off, like you put the dog up in there and you drive short distances. The wind's going to annoy them, all that sort of stuff is going to annoy them. That initial driving around and getting them used to it is always going to be flooding because there is no threshold for them to start with there.
Yeah. So real quick, there's a couple comments in here. Okay, so taking it in small enough steps maybe, and someone else responds with you want to introduce them to their triggers slowly. The problem is you guys are looking at it as a one-size-fits-all approach. Train the dog in front of you. Here's an example. The dog behind those words, that's me with a German Shepherd who was highly anxious and afraid of cars. The problem was that it had a very obscure opinion of cars that was outside of reality. They've only been on 3 car rides in its entire life, and 2 of them was to the veterinarian. So I forced that dog at that point. I forced that dog to deal with their issues. And guess what? Within an hour session, they are getting in the car on their own. And now it's been 6 months and I've already done a check-in with the owner. That dog willingly goes into the car all the time now and is able to go to the beach 3 times a week. That changed the dog's entire life. So sometimes it is necessary. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and sometimes the steps, sometimes you have to take them slower, but sometimes that's not the case. It's train the dog in front of you.
May I say an example of this?
Go ahead.
So I had a junior Marine walk up to the dog that I was getting ready to take over to Afghanistan with me. And if you guys know anything about that, you have to get acclimated to that dog, and that dog has to get acclimated to you. And speaking of which, he's sitting in the room with me. So he walks over and he approaches him in the way I will tell you guys do not do this. Sticks his hand directly into his face. Just
See you,
directly.
Captain. Have a good night.
And he snaps, bites him, latches on. I'm calling off, ooze, off. And he's not listening to a single word, so I walk over there and I recorrect him by grabbing his collar. From there, that junior didn't want to come over to him at all. He didn't want to go anywhere near him. He didn't want to do anything. But I flat up was like, hey, come to my trainings. Come to me acclimating with my dog. And he did. And I was like, this is how you properly are supposed to approach a dog, just so you're aware. And over time, those two just became friends. Like, it was like a friendship with them. You know, he'd see him, get him excited, and they'd always have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the realization of this is how you're supposed to properly train a dog for me, to where now I want to train dogs, you know? I got out and decided, you know what, if he retires, I'm going to go pick him up, because I spent almost 2 years with this dog, due to him having a very reactive temper. So I flooded him with a bunch of his stressors, people, noises, all these different things.
Exposure, yeah.
Yeah, I exposed the crap out of him for it. And so, like you said, I sent my dog's blanket, and I had them send me his Kong. So now my wife's with my dogs, has the Kong. I'm with him. I'm getting him reacclimated to me. So that way, when we go, they're already ready to acclimate to each other.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be good.
You've already taken those steps to start getting each other used to the scents, for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, real quick. Okay, so a lot of people that's talking about the flooding stuff in the comments. If you go to my TikTok main page and look at the second pin video, you will actually see me in the process of flooding the crap out of a dog, shutting the dog down, and then you'll see the dog recover, and then you'll see the dog be able to finally, for the first time, be off muzzle, not being aggressive, being able to take treats and do obedience training, as well as meet new people without being aggressive, and change their entire reality. That's the case where I had a dog that within 200 feet was over threshold, lunging at the fence, trying to bite, anything that they could do. It was a self-reinforcing behavior. And because they were a puppy stray find during the COVID shutdowns, so they never had a lot of socialization. So the self-reinforcing behavior was lunge and bite at the fence, people cross the road, right? Okay, it's reinforcing. In order to extinct that behavior cannot work anymore, right? That's the only way to do it. So since the dog was over threshold no matter what, I decided to take the lead, let the dog freak out for a while controlling the movements, and then the dog shut down. And then after the dog shut down, I was able to let the owner handle the dog now confidently, and we started working towards not fixing the dog. That's a horrible way to look at it, but reinforcing the better behaviors and building it back up using classical conditioning to change the emotion behind new people, right? And so with that, the dog bounced out of being flooded fairly quickly within that session, and then by session number 2, dog's off muzzle, dog's meeting new people, dog's not lunging at fences, dog is doing amazing. We're on session 4 now because they have a secondary dog that is reactive towards other dogs, and it amps the other dog up, the one I was working with, so it pushes the dog over threshold fairly easily when they're both together. So we're working those behaviors out now too. But that's a good example of why flooding works sometimes and when to use it.
I think a lot of people look at flooding with people like that dog daddy and stuff like that, and they see that sort of idea of flooding and they're like, "That's terrible." Yes, that is terrible. That is absolutely terrible. Flooding is also sometimes necessarily needed to change the picture of a behaviour. So when you talk about something with a dog, I'm assuming everyone here knows what I'm talking about when I say changing a picture, but if anyone doesn't, It's dogs see things in kind of like a snapshot. That's the easiest way to describe it. They look at something and they go, I know what this is. This does X, Y, Z. If they've got a negative association with that picture, then, exposing them to that picture and then changing the behavior, whether it's trains, getting them close to the sound of the train so they're starting to be like, oh, okay, that's not good. Get them on a target, play a game with them, then move closer and closer and closer and closer. It's still flooding, and you're also still working with the threshold.
I'll say, for my reactive pit bull, whenever the puppy barks, it sparks something in him. But I think after a while of, them, at first I didn't really understand how to, introduce them properly. So I kept them in separate rooms, and I bring them out at separate times. Which I felt, now that I'm saying that out loud, I feel like an idiot for doing that. But I probably introduced them about 3 months ago when the puppy was 3 months old. And, all puppies do is roar, 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 roar. And every time the puppy would bark, I'd see his eyes just immediately dart to the direction that it was due to the nature of where he came from. And, it's taken me almost a year for him to really get that trust with me, as well as the 3 months that I've been working with him and the puppy of, this isn't who you need to attack, this is your sister of all things. This is a puppy that will love you for the rest of your life. And I don't really think he understands that quite yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron J. I mean, you're more than welcome to keep commenting and stuff. It's sparking good conversation. It really is. One thing is about me is I'm in the niche of dog training that most people won't touch. I work with highly violent, highly aggressive, and highly reactive dogs. And so I have a certain skill set and experience that a lot of dog trainers, most dog trainers, will never have because they won't touch that side of dog training.
Kenan, I have a question.
I have an answer.
All right, this actually is right up your neck of the woods, so hopefully you can kind of give me some guidance, basic guidance, considering.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So there's a family member who has a I think she's border collie, pity, and some other. She's mutt, but she is highly anxious when it comes to riding in the car.
Mm-hmm.
She'll do it, but as soon as you hit like the rumble strips or anything that's any kind of anything, she'll end up crawling up into your lap, and there's times that she'll crawl either behind the seat of the driver or on the lap of the driver while they're driving, and it's kind of not okay. Granted, they've started using the seat belts and stuff like that, but it still makes her crawl. What can we do to kind of desensitize her to something? Like how can we fix this?
Oh man. So the problem with that is you're probably not always just purposely going over rumble strips.
No,
right?
it's just and you're changing lanes or you're doing whatever, and
mm-hmm.
There's times. I mean,
how long has the dog been with that family and going on car rides, or is that your dog?
No, it's not my dog.
Okay,
it's actually my sister's dog, and they've had her, I would say, 2 years now.
And it's been going on for 2 years?
And it's been.
Have you ever
She is a rescue.
Have you ever tried giving her sensory toys?
Mm-hmm.
Sensory toys in the car?
During those times?
I don't know what they've done per se.
Yeah, Ghost, that's exactly what I was thinking. It could be a sound thing more so. They might be noise sensitive, and it could be a sound thing. A quick little test you can do is grab a clicker and click it near that dog, and if that dog freaks out because of the clicker, then they're probably noise sensitive, and it could be a sound thing. And if it is a sound thing,
if it's that case, maybe a happy hoodie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, get some dog earmuffs. Like do you can manage it like that easily. If it's a
I
sound thing.
gotcha.
Yeah, and another thing to do as well is like even with the noise reduction type dog earmuffs and stuff, they'll
Mhm.
still hear it a little bit, but it won't be as intense. And then at that point, keep some high level treats on you or on them when they're in the car. And right when you go over a rumble strip,
Yeah.
throw some treats in the back, so that way, okay, this is not as loud anymore, and I felt it, and it's awesome because I just got rewarded, and start turning associating with good, good feelings, and
Yeah.
then maybe slowly, take those
Okay.
earmuffs
Yeah, that
off and see
positive
if that changes.
I
association.
gotcha. So what
See,
you're thinking is like the Rec Specs freaking earmuffs, probably,
Yeah.
so
and then okay.
Another way, I'll say this is how I found out that my pit bull is noise sensitive. I dropped my keys, and I'm pretty tall, so when it hit the ground, it was pretty loud, and he reacted to it.
Mm-hmm.
That's another way you possibly could do it. Is
Mm-hmm.
like accidentally, like pretend like you accidentally walk by the dog and drop your keys. Like I mean, like
So
kind of cross it out.
Emma in the
Okay.
comments has a great, and I know what they just did half their comments so far. Find a YouTube video of that sound and play that sound on repeat. Get them
Okay.
used to the sound being a normal thing.
Right.
Yeah, find a volume where the dog is below threshold and work on creating. Yeah, yeah, absolutely,
And then just
absolutely.
slowly push it. Like, would you push her over that thresh or not?
I wouldn't push her over the thresh. I would keep it
Okay.
below threshold, and then the more exposure means that the threshold
Just
raises, and then you
repetitively.
can, yeah,
I gotcha.
and then you can see how high up did that threshold get, and raise the volume up and see if they're still under threshold, and work from there.
Okay.
So
See,
Mocha's asking, one second. Mocha's asking, what do you typically do when flooding a reactive dog? Um, so it's not for every reactive dog, right? When I'm flooding a reactive dog, it's one of two reasons, right? It's going to be one because no matter the distance I am away, if I'm within eyesight of the dog is reactive, right? It's over threshold. So at that point, I have to shut that down so that way I can start at a base level to where they can bounce back under threshold, and I can start positively reinforcing new emotions, classical conditioning. The other reason would be if the dog has a very obscure view of reality, something that is not real, and so I will force the dog to deal with their own problems and realize that, oh, that's not that bad. An example would be that German Shepherd in the background being forced to deal with a car because they only associated the car with veterinarian trips because that's all they've ever known for car rides, and so they bounce back real quick from that. Another example would be like, let's say a dog is afraid of people with beards. The reason why is because one day they saw a guy with a beard and somebody slammed a trash can lid and it freaked them out. That's a very obscure reality the dog has. So exposing them heavily to somebody with a beard while changing their emotion towards it and realizing that they're not going to be unalive from people with beards, it really does a difference.
Yeah, like I just got an entirely different problem I play with the fact that Bishop's just a fucking menace. Um, Bishop, I do classify Bishop as reactive, but the thing about him being reactive, it depends on what he's being reactive to. When he's around people he don't know, it's a flip of a coin. Usually when we're outside and we're walking, he doesn't bother people, but he will just look at them. But if you're wearing like a big heavy coat, or if he just gets an off feeling about you, that's when he becomes reactive. That's when he starts barking and lunging. Um, when he sees other dogs, he wants to play. And he will literally fight me to go to another dog. If he sees a prey animal like deer or foxes or anything like that, his prey drive kicks in. I have to fight him. If he goes, like, that's what I mean by when he's just reactive.
Mm-hmm. So real quick, first, Shays, hi, how are you? And second, Mocha, what do you do? Like guide the dog to the trigger? Yeah, yeah. Second one is, do you talk to the dog when you do exposure like that? I talk to dogs constantly, regardless on what kind of training I'm doing, and even if they don't understand what I'm saying. A lot of people tell me, "Oh, you're talking to the dog too much." No, No, the thing is, in reality, there's going to be noise everywhere. When people are out with their dogs walking in parks and stuff like that, other people are talking. So in order to train the dog to listen to commands and understand commands while there's other stuff going on, I don't care if I'm talking a lot and the dog doesn't understand what I'm saying, as long as they understand what the goal of the training is in between the talking.
Yep. So with
and don't get me started with bikes. Oh my goodness, bikes.
with my dog, she does not, like I said last time, she does not do treats, so I can't motivate her with food. So what I do do with her is I stroke her ego a little bit. She loves going to the dog park, but she hates getting baths. This is a little picture of her getting a bath. So instead of just taking her to the bath or to the vet and then straight home, I would take her to the vet or to the bath, and then I would take her to the dog park. So she would get that positive reinforcement or that positive association that if she goes to the vet, which usually I'm the one to take her, or to the bath, she's going to the dog park, or she is going to get some other sort of treat. So like I said, food doesn't necessarily motivate her to behave better or to just, do something that I want her to do. She's relatively smart in that way. Like, I'm going to feed her either way or she's going to get fed either way, so she doesn't give a shit. So I have to reward her with outside influence. So going to go see other dogs or going to a unfamiliar place. She loves going on a car ride just normally. So she likes that part. She just absolutely fucking hates the vet.
Gotcha.
She knows, she sees, and she knows which direction I'm going in, so I can't just trick her and take another direction. That doesn't work. So I take her in the same direction every single time, and eventually she got to a point where, okay, if we're going to the vet, that means we're going to the dog park. Or if we're going to the bath, that means we're going to the dog park. Or we're going to go to the people park where all the people are. And I like people because I'm a people dog. So she's very friendly as well. She loves kids, absolutely freaking adores kids.
Hey, Shays, you're up,
I can't
and
bring
I
Bishop
haven't
around
really
small children.
gotten to hear you yet. I didn't know if you agree with everything or had comments or concerns.
No, I've been in your live several times, and you've been in a couple of other service dog handlers' lives several times. I'm
Hi,
just
Shays.
hanging out here.
Sorry.
I don't disagree with anything. Your dog definitely is not your baby. They're definitely not a child, which people seem to think, which my friend and I had a discussion of the other day, which is with the rec specs and boots and all that. It's definitely not a child. Nope, just hanging out here.
Oh, it's cool. Mocha, I saw you asking about what dog is best for a first-time service animal handler. I'm not a service dog trainer, so I can't really get into huge specifics with that, but it really does depend on your task that you need done, and there's just a lot of factors involved.
So, one of my best friends has a service dog that does blocking. So when she's in public spaces, her dog stands between her and outside people because she has complex PTSD to where she cannot have people too close to her or come up behind her because it could be a trigger to a panic attack. So she has a little collie for that. So her collie freaking herds people.
So
out of the way.
real quick, I want to address this real quick. Aaron J. Their therapy dogs are probably going to be emotional support animals, they're not the same as service animals. And between service animals and emotional support animals, I know there are some certifications depending on where you are, but federally there are no, and if you're in the U.S., federally there are no certifications for those type of animals. And if somebody says that they have to be certified and you can go through us, that's a scam.
So service dogs are a service dog is a dog that is specifically designed or trained for one specific person to support them with their services. A emotional support animal is typically a animal that makes them feel comfortable and safe in their own home, but is not allowed to go out into public at any sort and does not have any public access training. A therapy dog is specifically trained to help multiple individuals feel comfortable and safe and provide, basic support like sometimes deep pressure therapy or just be a fun, enjoyable dog out in public that is specifically meant to help older people or disabled or go into hospitals. Both service dogs and therapy dogs do have training guidelines that they recommend following, and you can get certified as a therapy dog and go through certain programs, but there's not a certified registry that is recognized in the United States or anywhere in the world that is specifically for service dogs, because there is such a vast range of disabilities that they cannot, somebody who has depression may have it severe and may need a service dog, whereas another person may not need it, not have as severe depression, so they're not necessarily going to need a service dog. So you are correct in that aspect, and there's a very different range of a service dog is for an individual, therapy dog is for the masses.
Oh, real quick.
Hey, Emma.
Hey.
Because I do need advice. Okay, because I do need advice for this. Have you dealt with dogs who are overly possessive?
Yeah. Yeah.
Bishop is overly possessive around certain toys. This is why one of the main reasons why I stopped bringing him around other dogs when we go outside and play, because he really likes balls, especially tennis balls, and I've seen him actually tussle with other dogs because he's that possessive. And people.
Yeah, I just don't bring my dog. She's massive. I'll just say that right now. She's massive. She will throw her weight around if she needs to. But she's relatively nice up until the point where her toys are involved.
Yep.
Especially her
Have you ever thought about e-collar training?
I thought about it. Like I pretty much considered it a long time ago. I'm just finding the right
She does not respond to that.
Yeah. So
What are your thoughts on e-collar training?
For me?
No, I know what yours are.
Oblivion?
Yeah.
Oh, I think that if you need to use the e-collar, I think e-collars are actually a very good tool for training.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, not just a good tool, but they have such a broad range of what you can do with them when it comes to training. The best part about them is they're a great communication tool from a distance, right? And so, for instance, you have a possessive dog. You can, because let's say the dog's being possessive, and its timing is everything in training, right? So trying to run up and stop the possession and stuff like that, the dog's already reinforced the behavior before you even got there, while you can time it properly with an e-collar. So there's that. I hope that anybody in the comments as well, listening in, if you have a dog that resource guards, don't just stick your hand in there and grab it. The dog does need to learn that those are your toys, not the dog's, and you just allow them to use it. but yeah, you can, if you need to get a toy away from a dog like that, you can use a high level treat or something, try to get your dog's attention away from it, kick the toy away, and then control the dog's movement, because you don't want to get bit. You don't.
Bishop's overly possessive.
And the more that you
Go ahead, Maureen.
the more that you end up working with that dog, the more you will be able to be up in their stuff and go ahead and take it from them. But you need to start that, depending on how old the dog is, matters.
I've been doing this when he was a puppy, but when the testosterone hit, that's when he changed.
Is he unaltered?
Yep, he's not. He's
still intact.
Yep.
I do have a comment to make about that.
For sure.
I have a German Shepherd who I use as my temperament test dog and whatnot, and he does not always have resource guarding issues, and I don't know if I would call it that, but he is a dog that has been trained on an e-collar his entire life, and he, even with proper timing, proper conditioning, teaching him that it's a safe space, he, especially if another dog comes to take his stuff and he wants to just put a safe, respectful boundary down, if I try to correct him on the e-collar, he does actively think that it's the other dog coming after him, and he will react to that. So I always say with resource guarding, obviously, you have, I think that e-collar is a great tool and great source, but also be careful with it, because there is a possibility, and I've seen it more than once, that dogs will disassociate this is a tool my mom's using, and actually it's another dog coming after me, because that even the vibrate or the static shock can mimic something similar to another dog biting, and sometimes that can actually exacerbate the situation. So just do it in a very controlled setting. Don't just throw an e-collar on, or watch your dog's behavior as you're training with the e-collar.
Yep. And anticipation reads that as a very solid point. So with that, to piggyback off anticipation, right? So the dog, you already know the dog's going to resource guard. So as you see the dog playing with a toy and you see from a distance somebody else's dog coming up, go ahead and use that e-collar to force a recall, right? Get that dog away from the toy so you anticipate it and make sure it just doesn't happen in the first place.
Yep.
Exactly.
Like I said, this is Bishop's shelf. This is his stuff. And as you can see, and here's what I mean by it. He is more likely to let me have the Frisbee and the rope before he'll ever give me this. Because this is made out of the same materials as the ball he used to have. And if this was a tennis ball, it'd be worse.
Oh yeah. A tug is that's game time. That's play time.
Yeah, he is more likely to give me this. He's more likely to give me this. He's more like me. He's more, except for this one, he's more likely to give me his bone. He's more likely to let me mess up with him with his puzzle than he'll ever with this or a tennis ball. And when he's around tennis balls, he puts them in a pile, and if you go near it, he reacts.
So Daniel is asking, how does someone stop treat-only aggression? I'm assuming that when you're using treats, the dog becomes aggressive or over threshold. I can't really give you a lot of advice until I actually see why and see what the dog is doing, physically and stuff. So I don't want to give you the wrong advice and make it worse.
Yeah, especially if we don't know what exactly. Some people say a high-value chew, like a beef cheek roll or rawhide, as a treat.
So there's a lot of what ifs that I don't know yet with that, but one thing I can say is that that's not going to be harmful at all is do not use treats as bribery. Treats should be reinforcing behaviors. If you start using it solely as bribery, then that can become an issue to your obedience. Second thing as well is that treat withholding, right? Treat withholding with high drive dogs is highly stressful for them, and they actually do better with lower stress on e-collars and prong collars, things like that. And there's studies that actually show that testing training methodologies or punishments and the cortisol levels in high drive dogs. So it really depends on the dog in front of you. I can't really tell you what to do on that one.
I would also say if it's with a bone or something, hold the bone the whole time.
Yeah. So Aaron J.
Feed my dogs quite a bit.
Aaron J. So bribery versus luring. Okay, so when you're doing obedience training and trying to lure a body movement, an action, so let's say sit, stay, lay down, so on, right? So luring, you are using the treat to lure the movement of the body. For instance, if I want a dog to sit, I take the treat above the head to lure the dog back into a sit position and then reward until they figure that out, right? That's great. But what bribery is when, no matter what, in order for them to do a command, you always give the reward. You never start expanding the or decreasing the reward quantity, right? So eventually you're basically bribing the dog. The dog won't do a command unless you give it a reward, right? So what I like to do is first, with obedience training, teaching the commands with lots of rewards. And then slowly what I'll do is I'll be decreasing the reward while giving more commands. So let's say a sit, reward, sit, stay, reward, sit, stay, come, reward, sit, stay, come, lay down, reward, sit, stay, come, lay down, sit, lay down, come, and so on. And you want to expand that out and see how many commands you can get out of a single reward. And at that point, what you'll start doing when you start phasing out rewards like that, now you're teaching the dog obedience without bribery.
Yeah.
All right, small potatoes.
Anyway, I'm about to pass out too, so I'll see you later.
All right, yeah. So yeah, I think I see other guests that want to come up, but my time is like way past my bedtime. It's like 1:48 in the morning, and I got a business to run, so I need to go and get some shut eye. So I appreciate everybody being here and talking pet education, dog education. It was fun. It was dramatic at some points, and I loved it. So thank y'all so much. And I try to make this a nightly thing. Sometimes I take a couple days off. So go ahead and follow me and pop back on when we do this again. I have a lot of topics we can go over. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Thank you, K9. Appreciate you.
Good night,
Absolutely.
Patrick. Have a good night.
Yep, you too. All right, good night, guys.